Hi, thanks for dropping in on Monday, the 9th of December. Hopefully you had a fantastic weekend. A few news stories, a bit of a hangover from the weekend, and a bit of a potpourri today, including a few raids. Let's start with this one. Reported in ASEAN Now, Thailand, Chiang Mai police arrested a Finnish man for overstaying his visa by 3,844 days. That's over a decade. And it says that he was on a tourist visa. He failed to renew it, he certainly did, and evaded authorities for years. He now faces deportation with fines up to 20,000 baht and legal action. This case is a clear reminder to foreign visitors: follow the rules or face severe penalties. Well, thanks for the warning, ASEAN Now. It's not the longest overstay we've reported, but over 10 years is certainly up there. Okay, to another story, and last week we were talking about the finance minister just throwing it out there to see what the response was, the possibility of raising the VAT, the value added tax, maybe up to 15%. Well, the Prime Minister jumped on that one. Reported in Bangkok Post, Pattaya dumps 15% VAT plan. And the Prime Minister has scrapped a plan to hike the VAT following public backlash after her finance minister floated the controversial idea. She said no VAT adjustment to 15%. The government faced a barrage of criticism after Mr Pichai, who's also a deputy PM, suggested last Tuesday the VAT could jump from the current 7% to 15%. Bottom line is that won't be happening. Now, a quick piece of political news. This reported in Khao English, a draft bill submitted by a group of people led by a per-Thai MP in a bid to prevent future military coups has received nearly 89% support during the first 4 days of a public hearing. Only 11 or so percent of the 11,230 people who responded disapprove of the draft, which would transfer the power to appoint army generals to the cabinet in hope of avoiding nepotism and another possible coup. And it notes that at present the army chief still retains that power. So a lot of work continuing, mostly under the radar, to try and prevent future military coups in Thailand. It has been low profile, a lot of work being done in hushed whispers behind the scenes around the water cooler in Parliament House. The idea is to try and make sure that Thailand is going to stop that cycle of military coups, then new constitutions, then another election, etc., etc. Okay, down to Phuket, some very sad news. Reported initially in Bangkok Post, American tourist electrocuted in Phuket. An American tourist was killed when he slipped on a wet sidewalk and was electrocuted by a faulty streetlight in Phuket. Story better reported in KhaoSodenglish.com. Phuket reunion turns tragic, tourist dies from streetlight electric shock. And a Myanmar national visiting from the United States died tragically in Phuket after being electrocuted by a faulty streetlight. The incident occurred just days into his long-awaited reunion with his girlfriend after nearly 6 years apart. And the accident took place around 9:30 p.m. on Thursday near a grilled fish restaurant in Tepkasatri in Thalang. Tura Kior, who was 33, was walking with his girlfriend when he slipped on the rain-soaked pavement, grabbed a streetlight pole for support. The pole, which was later found to have an electrical leak of 220 volts, fatally electrocuted him. Bystanders immediately attempted to help, performing CPR until emergency responders arrived. Despite their efforts, he was pronounced dead at Thalang Hospital. It says the incident raises serious concerns about infrastructure maintenance and public safety in the area, particularly during wet season conditions. This version of the story from dailymail.co.uk goes a step further. Its headline, horror as US tourist 33 is killed by electric shock after slipping and grabbing hold of faulty streetlight in Thailand. And they decided to give Thailand a bit of a kicking. Thailand is a rapidly growing country but still faces developmental challenges such as outdated infrastructure, chronic flooding, traffic congestion and air pollution. Widespread corruption, it continues, is also an issue hampering progress, with funds being siphoned to wealthy families or local officials instead of being spent on public services. Still, a very sad story, the 33-year-old dying after being electrocuted simply by touching an electric pole in Phuket. Acknowledging our sponsors, 5-Star Marine and Beach House Thailand. Links are below there. I did finish the edit for the bioluminescence tour over the weekend, just being approved at the moment. Hopefully we'll have that up in the next few days. Now, if you're going for a swim, how far do you think you'd decide to swim into the ocean? You're standing on the shore, well, in this story, in Pattaya, and you look out and, well, there's an island in the distance. The Bangkok Post says that a Russian man found naked in sea between Pattaya and Koh Larn. Well, there's Pattaya in the distance. Didn't make it, obviously, to Koh Larn. A naked and exhausted Russian man was rescued by a Koh Larn-bound speedboat driver in the sea about 6 kilometres off Pattaya. And the Russian was floating and exhausted in the sea between the Bali High Pier and Koh Larn. According to the 34-year-old boat driver, the Thai driver threw a lifebuoy at the Russian, helping the latter get on the speedboat and gave him a towel and drinking water. And the Russian man told him and other tourists that he swam from Pattaya on Saturday night and headed for Koh Larn, but he couldn't make it. So there you go. The shortest distance, according to the map, between Pattaya and Koh Larn is about 6 kilometres. The particular route the Russian chose was about 8 kilometres. Well, the story said he swam from Bali High Pier. Perhaps he neglected to see the great big signs with the ferry schedule. I think it would have been a lot easier for him and perhaps allowed him to get to his destination without all the effort. Right, to a little bit of a strange story. Well, a couple of stories about raids, but it's the way that they were reported that I found amusing. And we head back to the Bangkok Post. Drugs found, over 100 arrested in underwear at Bangkok hotel party. And police arrested more than 120 people wearing only underwear in a Bangkok hotel room where they were partying with narcotics early on Sunday morning. And police raided room 2001 on the 20th floor at the S31 Hotel. Now, this is a fairly swanky 4 or 5-star hotel right on Sukhumvit Road in the Thonglor area. You'd call it pretty upscale. And in the room, police found 124 Thai and foreign men described as gay in their underwear, along with a few women and a certain amount of ecstasy and ketamine. I can just picture the weekend editor at the Bangkok Post sort of squirming as he tries to find the right words to describe exactly what was going on or who was at the party. Cowsort English had a go as well. Thonglor police cracked down on exclusive drug party, over 100 detained. And this version says Thonglor police raided a gay party in downtown Bangkok where hundreds of attendees, including 3 foreigners, were subjected to hours-long drug testing. And upon entry, police found hundreds of Thai and foreign male partygoers all wearing identical underwear. And officers discovered, ecstasy and ketamine during their initial search. All attendees were subsequently detained and transported to Thonglor police station. 3 foreign tourists, including Vietnamese and a few women, were also present. And police have charged 31 individuals, 30 men, 1 woman, with drug possession, and 66 others, 65 men and 1 woman, with drug use. All suspects were over 20 years old and have voluntarily agreed to enter rehabilitation programs. Another publication described it as an LGBTQ party, so the editor's sort of struggling with exactly how to report it. The sexual orientation of the participants in the next story wasn't even mentioned. And this is from the PattayaNews.com. Major raid at Pattaya Nightclub uncovers illegal drugs with over 50 people testing positive. And they even went to great lengths to hide the identity of the people at the party. Over 50 patrons tested positive for drugs during a major raid at a Pattaya nightclub. This was at the 11 pub in Pattaya. Over 100 officers raided the venue, and officers found over 200 patrons dancing to music and consuming alcohol, but officers found that over 54 patrons tested positive for illegal drug use. The venue's manager was arrested and charged with operating a nightclub without a licence, selling alcohol without authorisation, exceeding legal alcohol sale limits, and allowing drug use on the premises. So police obviously in a bit of a mood for raids over the weekend in Pattaya and Bangkok. And to this story, I'm not going to make a big fuss about it. I'm just going to report the headline and pretty much leave it at that. But it's just one of those stories we might just have to keep an eye on. And Thailand on alert for Disease X. And the Ministry of Public Health in Thailand has alerted all its officers to be vigilant about an infectious disease outbreak in the Democratic Republic of Congo that sickened hundreds of people and killed at least 79 since late October. And the story notes that the focus is mainly on all health control stations at border points and airports, as they're in the front line for people travelling to the kingdom. So really nothing more to say than that, but just a story that we'll keep an eye on. Just remembering that with COVID-19, the first case that was found outside of China was an airline passenger in Thailand. And airlines are the way that these modern pandemics can spread very quickly. With that, thank you for watching quite a potpourri in today's program. Please subscribe to the channel and we will be back again tomorrow.